Body shot. Ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When the adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast, fresh off the aftermath of a new champion, UFC 275, Yuri Prochazka, all the news. We have a stacked card on our hands. UFC Austin. That's something different, right? Texas. Different. But if there's anybody that we know knows about Texas and knows what he needs to talk about for the Texas folks, we know it's the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber himself, brother. I know you the New Mexico native, brother, but you out there fresh in Austin, Texas, so you got a hometown event right here, brother. Kattar versus Josh Emmett. This is an interesting one. This is a subtly stacked card, but give me your thoughts, brother, for the good old Texonians. What do you call them out there, brother?
I guess it just is Texans, Derick.
Yeah, Texans,
good old Texans out here, man. And, bro, this is a sneaky banger of a card, man. From top to bottom, literally from the prelims all the way to the main event, bro. There are some absolute bangers on there. We were talking about a little bit off camera. The fact that they're opening up the fight night on the prelims with Kyle Dawkins versus Kattar. Bro, this is about to be some heat. Uncle Dana brought some heat to Texas. Yeah. We knew everybody was packing out here, so Uncle Dana had to travel, safeguarded by himself, man. How you feeling about this fight card?
I mean, I'm feeling good, brother. Not only because you have another one of these non-Vegas cards. It always feels good when we spice it up a little bit, even though this was the norm. Before, this was normal. We would go to a different place every single week, and that's how it was. But, post-COVID, it's a different world. Either way, I like it. It's a sense of renewed freshness, I guess you could say, and I was also inquisitive myself, like, why is this such a stacked card? So, folks, I'm actually just going to pull it up really quickly. Let's take a look. You got Roman Dolidze, Kyle Dawkins, Phil Hawes, Deron Wynn, Cody Stamann versus Eddie Wineland. Here, I'll pull us up just to make sure that, the good folks could see us over at home. There we go. All right. So, look at this, folks. So many good fights over here. Adrian Yanez, Tony Kelley, Jasmine Jasvidicius versus Natalia Silva. I mean, we're not even talking about the main card yet, but just as a prelims, a couple of these fights, I could see them throwing on a fight night card, main card, just to kind of, fill space and all that. So, I guess the point that we're taking away here is that Uncle Dana must really have an affinity for Austin, Texas, or maybe Texas is just going to be the new hotspot. It's going to be literally Vegas, Texas. That's where all the biggest events are going to be, and I'm not mad at that. But AJ, I will say, and I don't know if this is something you've kept in the back of your mind, Texas judging has been a little something else as of late, brother. So that might play into the main card factors that we have, or main card fights that we have. May factor into it, brother. That's really the whole point. What are your thoughts on that?
Man, Sal Diamato might have a New York last name, but I think he has a resort here in Texas, brother, because you're right. The judging, sometimes, it's a little fishy. And I agree. I think the only other spot where they're maybe looking to is Florida. But Texas, New York, Nevada, Florida, is going to be the hot spot here very, very soon, man. Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting to see how it does, because a lot of these fights, I don't see a lot of them going to decision either. There's a lot of heat here.
Well, listen, man, every single coach and every trainer is going to be saying, do not leave it to the judges, brother. Don't leave it to the judges. So, folks, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We recently reached over 380 subscribers, so slowly on our way to 400. The beauty of the situation is that even though you're not getting 10, 20, 30, 50 new subscribers every single week, we still have the same loyal people rocking with us week in and week out. We appreciate you. As always, once again, we're coming off of our UFC 275 coverage. So every time there's a pay-per-view, it's a little bit different coverage, but back to our fight night roots, back to the structure that kind of made us as a program, and just talking about some good old scraps, some under the radar fights, brother. So let's get into a TLDR. And listen, they're doing a little bit differently this time around, folks, but this is just the rundown. So we'll talk about each pick. We're both rocking with Kattar in the main event, easy. Both rocking with Joe Lauzon, and we're going to have to talk about that a little bit, because my man AJ, I think that when this fight was originally booked, was rocking for Cowboy, so a little bit of a change of mind, maybe change of heart. Tim Means and Kevin Holland. So in an odd twist of fate, folks, you have the New Mexico native himself, AJ, picking Kevin Holland over the Dirty Bird, Tim Means, but I'm rocking with the Dirty Bird. It's okay. We have a very fun middleweight matchup between Albert Duraev and Joaquin Buckley, and we're going opposites on that one. I'm rolling with Duraev, the submission artist. My man AJ is rolling with Joaquin Buckley. Looks like we have a lock on Guram Kutateladze versus, who is he fighting, brother? Versus Damir Ismagulov. And that's actually one of my favorite fighters right now in the division, the Dark Horse, 18-fight win streak. And lastly, Gregory Rodriguez versus the Cuban Missile Crisis. Julian, Marquez. It looks like those are the picks. So, brother, let's talk about it really quickly. One more time. I know you must know that it's difficult for me picking against Damir Ismagulov, right? I've been talking up so highly on him, but Guram Kutateladze is probably one of the biggest sleepers in the UFC currently right now. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely, Derick. Absolutely. In fact, those 3 fights from Kutateladze all the way up to, who was it? Kevin Holland, and then the next one above them, Joaquin Buckley, Duraev. Yeah. Man, all 3 of those are very interesting fights. But of all of those ones, because you see Duraev, most people don't really know his name, don't really know what he's about. But Kutateladze, man, this dude is an absolute sleeper on the way up and battling an absolute killer in Ismagulov. Going to make for a very, very fun fight.
It's really interesting to me that they even pit these 2 fighters up against each other, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So clearly, like I said, the locks that we have, I'll bring it back up. The locks that we have today: Kattar, Joe Lauzon, Guram Kutateladze, and Gregory Rodriguez. The 2 in-play fights that we have: Tim Means versus Kevin Holland and Albert Duraev versus Joaquin Buckley. So, folks, run to your local sports books, but I will say take this into consideration. AJ is currently our head-to-head leader on the year. 71-35 is he, 69-37 am I. So, reasonably, if everything were to go correctly and I were to get the leg up this week, 2 fights up, I would take it back to even. But we're not playing. Sorry about that. We're not playing for even. We're playing to win, brother. So listen, may the best man win. We'll just leave it at that. Let's get into some sleepers, brother. Let's talk about it.
It's time for some fight night.
If you ain't paying attention, you're gonna sleep on me and I'm gonna wake you up.
All right, brother. So I think it's fair to say that you have a pretty cracking sleeper on your hands over here, brother. And I wanted to just kind of give the folks a good view of it, legitimately. So Danny Chavez versus Ricardo Ramos, brother. We need to talk about this. 11-4-1. Danny Chavez coming off of an interesting majority decision against Kai Kamaka III, no longer in the UFC any longer. And then you got Ricardo Ramos coming off of a loss against Tukagov, a very skilled prospect. So, brother, talk me through it. What made you go with this sleeper for UFC Austin?
Well, one, anytime I see Danny Chavez on a fight, man, I'm always excited. And folks, if you're not excited anytime you see a Danny Chavez fight, you're just not paying attention, because this dude comes to bang, man. Even in that Kai Kamaka fight, man, I know, like Derick said, Kai Kamaka's not in the UFC anymore, but it's still a very entertaining fight. This dude brings it. Even against downtown TJ Brown, man, still a decision fight, but it's still a very entertaining one. And before that, Danny Chavez is just getting knockouts left and right, man. Now, Ricardo Ramos, however you say his name, either way, this dude has some absolute skill, but he was on a little bit of a downturn here on his last part of the UFC, man. He actually went and did another submission match right before this fight. And before that, in the UFC, he was on a bit of a skid. 2-fight skid. He got one back against Billy Algeo, and then a little skid after that, but still never hitting the full stride that I feel like Ricardo Ramos was able to hit, man. So he's kind of underdeveloped or underperformed, if you will, in the UFC. And I think now, setting up against a real killer in Danny Chavez, Ricardo Ramos is going to rise to the occasion, man. We're going to see some scraps right here, whether it's kicking, grappling, striking. These dudes can do both. But I'm still looking for a very exciting, energetic match coming forward with a lot of pressure and almost like anticipation. You know what I'm saying? Like that feeling when you just haven't performed well enough. I think that's what's really driving Ricardo Ramos. And same thing with Danny Chavez, man. You don't want to get one up on a dude who's been, wishy-washy through the rest of the division. Just it's a bad look for you to the brass. So I think Danny Chavez is also going to perform very, very well. Derick, how excited are you for this match, and what's your sleeper?
First off, brother, this is a bona fide banger right here. I mean, I don't think I need to say anything else on that. This is a bona fide banger. Once again, folks, let's take a look at it. One interesting stat to take note: Ricardo Ramos, it looks like he has a 5-inch reach advantage on Danny Chavez. It's definitely going to play into a large factor. So you have a kickboxer here. You have a good kickboxer here on the other side for Ramos, but he also got some jiu-jitsu play going on. Listen, at the end of the day, this is just going to be a fun scrap. And we live for fun scraps, man. That's kind of what we do here on the Bloody Water podcast. So I really enjoyed this sleeper, man. But let me talk about mine for a second, because mine's a little bit of a different vibe, I guess you could say. So I'm rocking with a interesting strawweight sleeper. And this is interesting to me because both of these fighters have their own traits that that set them apart, that make them kind of distinct in their division, I believe, personally. So I'm rocking today with Gloria DePaula versus Maria Oliveira. And if you look at Gloria DePaula, she did have a rough 2-fight losing skid, and that losing skid came to Jinyu Fry and Cheyenne Vlismas, right? Those are two high-profile names, two former champions in their own respective regional promotions. But then she got the big win against Diana Belbitsa, and that was a big turnaround win. Now, Marina Oliveira, you probably haven't heard too much of her other than me talking about her in jiu-jitsu competitions and all that, but she actually lost her UFC debut to Tabitha Ricci, which you'd have to admit, given today's, or I guess what we know today, that's a tough UFC debut to have, man. You get thrown to Baby Shark off the bat, okay, that's something. However, Oliveira is long, has great jiu-jitsu. Gloria DePaula, she's more or less of a knockout artist, and when she gets put on her back, she seems to have some problems. So you have a long, rangy counter striker in Oliveira. You have somebody who's looking to walk forward, take your head off, in Gloria DePaula, who's come off of some recent woes and is trying to build on her newfound success. So I think ultimately you're going to have some fun jiu-jitsu play, fun kickboxing, and this, while it might go to a decision, you're going to see these are the people, these are the people who are going to be the future of the division, the Gloria DePaulas, the Maria Oliveiras. Maybe not now, maybe not in a couple of years, but give it some time, and this is going to be your number 17, 16s, 15s, 14s in the division, I truly believe. What do you think about that, AJ?
Man, even I would say even a little higher, man. Yeah. Here in the next 3-4 years, these will be the top 15 to 10 round fighters where we're seeing, like you said, Derick, we've been talking about them for a long time. They're going forward. And the same thing, even with Gloria DePaula having her debut against Baby Shark, she still brought it in that fight, man, and earned a lot of fans. Anytime you hear that name DePaula, it always pops out to me too, because you know she's gonna bring it. It's gonna be a very, very fun fight, man. And what do I gotta say again? It's just the prelims too, so there's some heat on this card, Derick. It gets you very excited, man.
Absolutely. And just to be clear, it's Oliveira who had her debut against Baby Shark. That was her. Now Gloria DePaula, though, her UFC debut did come against Jinyu Fry. Like I said, that was a former atomweight champion, and then fought Cheyenne Vlismas, that head kick from hell that took her out. You know what I'm saying? Either way, Gloria DePaula is a very, very fun fighter, man, and I do think that she's with I think she's in a relationship with one other of these like flyweight fighters, man. She's so good. I see her face, but I forget her name. It's okay next time. And it's actually really neither here nor there. All right, brother. That's our sleepers, man. So right now, those are the prelims. Those are two bouts that you need to be lined up for. But as we said earlier, I think it's almost unfair if I don't just go through it one more time. You have so many sleepers on hand. You have Roman Dolidze, Kyle Dawkins. I mean, that's clearly a sleeper. Haas, Wynn, sleeper. Wineland, Stamen, sleeper. McGee, Wells, super sleeper. Jasvidicius, Silva, that'll be interesting. I don't know too much about Natalia Silva, but Jasvidicius is a fun fighter. And then obviously Adrian Yanez, Tony Kelley. This whole entire prelim is a sleeper, but these are the matches that we see that stand out just a little bit more than the rest, to a degree, in our own, our own context. Now, AJ, I actually forgot to do it, so we're going to take a jump back really quickly and just knock out this poster review, brother. That's important. So let's pull it back up, and let's take a look, man. This is UFC Austin, so I know we needed to give it a little bit of love, man. We can't just skip over the poster. So we have this weird names in circles blurred out. I actually kind of like it, but then you have the very stereotypical Calvin Kattar, Josh Emmett just staring at each other. One dude got the arms crossed, the other one don't. It's a nice tealish aqua color. I mean, brother, what are we rating this, 1 to 10?
Oh man, it looks a little dreamy too. I like the color with it. What it reminded me of first time I saw walking by is like, imagine you're like, walking through a strip mall or something. And you turn to the left, you look in like the karate studio, and you see like through their through their window, some dude staring it off. That's what it reminded me of. So I kind of like the vibe, man. Sure. Kind of like the vibe a little bit right here. I'm going 7. I'm going 7, man. 7. I know I like the last one a little bit more, so I'm going 7 on this one.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, you went 8.5 on the last one, brother. You know what? I'm actually going to give this one a high score just simply for its creativity. This reminds me going to the optometrist and, you know what I mean? Going to the eye doctor and checking out letters on the wall and whatnot. It reminds me of that a little bit. It's different. That's really the big point. It's different. It feels creative. It feels memorable, even though the poses of the fighters aren't too memorable. The poster feels memorable. I'm going to go 8 on this one, man. I'm going to one up you just one point, and I'm going to go 8, and then we'll keep it pushing. And hit some main card action, brother. But this is an interesting poster, man. I wanted to give some props to that one. So let's hit some main card action. Let's get it.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
All right, brother. We have a bona fide main event on our hands. Calvin Kattar versus Josh Emmett. Two featherweight phenoms, two dudes who have been in the top 10 of the featherweight division for quite some time. But I think the key point that we need to take away here, AJ, is that Calvin Kattar is coming off of a massive unanimous decision victory against Kutateladze, a fight that a lot of people picked against him. I picked against him. I don't remember if you did or not, but I know that that was the hill that he had to overcome to be able to truly remind the world that, hey, just because you got beat up by Max Holloway doesn't mean you're not still a bona fide top 2, 3, 4 fighter in the featherweight division. Now, Josh Emmett, a dude who has been more or less plagued by injuries in his career, a little bit older, right? He's 37 years old. I mean, Kattar's 34, but 37 years old, coming off of a big win against Dan Ige. And AJ, brother, I mean, the thing about the win is that unfortunately, it doesn't age as well these days. Even though Dan Ige is a hell of a fighter, man, he always comes to bring it, always comes to give a great fight. Lots of losses as of late, man. So it's like, well, when Kattar has a win over Ige, Emmett has a win over Ige, this guy, that guy, the other guy has a win. How memorable is it? So, I mean, listen, you have this tail of the tape. The tail of the tape is that Josh Emmett has a nuclear bomb in his right hand that he's ready to implode on you at any time. And Calvin Kattar, this dude has unmatched cardio and can put a pace on you for 5 rounds and has stones of hand and has elbows, knees, the whole 9. Do you look at it like that, or do you look at it in a simpler term and say this is striker versus wrestler? How are you looking at it?
I mean, you can look at it as easy as striker versus wrestler. Yeah, I could see how a lot of people are going to frame it that way, but they're just sleeping on Josh Emmett because this dude, like you said, Derick, has absolute power in the right hand. Sure, he can go to the ground. Sure, he's probably going to be looking to wrestle, and that's strictly because Calvin Kattar, this dude's technique, the ones and twos, man, the technique in his boxing hands are so crisp that at Josh Emmett, he's going to need something else to get around that, man. But you don't mistake Josh Emmett for strictly just a wrestler, because this dude will pop you 1, 2, hit you in the body, and then come up top, like you said, with that big bomb of a right hand, drop you, man. You'll be seeing stars if you sleep on Josh Emmett. So I also, in my last one, I did pick against Calvin Kattar, just to clarify as well. I was looking for the Giga. We were riding the Giga hype, but Calvin Kattar proved to be the real deal, man. I think this is another one of those fights that's going to solidify Calvin Kattar as the fighter he is. Going forward, he's going to gain a lot of fans. And I mean, it's weird saying that Josh Emmett is the old guy, because you do feel that. You kind of feel like, oh man, he's been in here forever, but he's only a couple years older. So I think it just proves how much media attention Calvin Kattar has versus a lot of people sleeping on Josh Emmett, that they just forget, this dude, he still is very much a bona fide savage, and he can get the fight done in multitude of ways.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I think an interesting stat to take note on is that Josh Emmett and Calvin Kattar have pretty comparable UFC records. I mean, 23-5 MMA record for Kattar, 17-2 for Emmett. But like I said, Emmett, he has been plagued by injuries. But if you look at the UFC record, 7-3 for Kattar, 8-2 for Emmett. So I mean, you're pretty much, par on par right there. But here's a stat that we need to take note of, AJ. Both of these fighters have fought Dan Ige. Both of these fighters have fought Jeremy Stephens in their last 5. That's very important. So Dan Ige, both of them, you get a decision win. Right on. Cool. Now let's talk about Jeremy Stephens. Calvin Kattar, if you remember, had a vicious elbow KO on Jeremy Stephens, put him out of his misery early, man. That was very impressive. On the flip side, Jeremy Stephens kind of did that to Josh Emmett, man. Gave him some elbows and got him out of there. So given that that's one of their similar opponents in their last 5 and those drastically opposite outcomes, that's something that we need to factor in, especially given how Calvin Kattar has massive elbows implemented into his game plan. Once he gets close to you, you get in those clinch situations, he's dropping elbows off the break. He's hitting you with the jab, switching stances as he's walking up on you, but he's always ready to drop that elbow on you, brother. So, I mean, how does that factor into this fight? Do you think Josh Emmett's going to play it super reserved because he knows that, or you got to risk it to get the biscuit? How do you see it?
I think you have to risk it to get the biscuit, especially if you're looking to get on the inside of Calvin Kattar. And that's where the danger comes in, man. You're up in that clinch. You don't necessarily get to the hips. You kind of stay a little high, stay in that clinch game. Next thing you know, you're eating a couple elbows. So very dangerous for Josh Emmett. But to your point, Derick, Emmett fought Stephens in 2018, where Calvin Kattar had a little bit more time for Jeremy Stephens to fight a little bit more opponents. Comes in, fights him in 2020. Not saying 2 years is the most massive of difference, but in Jeremy Stephens' case, if I had to bet, I could say he probably fought like 5-6 times. That dude's an absolute savage. So it does come into play, but I think the elbow wouldn't be as worrisome to me unless you're getting up in that clinch. If you're in that clinch, obviously all day I was going to be crazy, but I'd just be worried about those uppercuts, man. For when you are getting on the inside, his hands are lightning fast of Calvin Kattar. So you really got to pay attention. If you're scared about those uppercuts, then you also need to be scared about the elbows coming over the top in that clinch as well, too.
I agree. And another aspect of Josh Emmett's game that I think is very effective, that a lot of people kind of, I don't know, they sleep on him a little bit, is his wrestling, man. He's a great wrestler. Like, I said you could look at his striker versus wrestler, but a lot of people, if you look at the UFC stats, man, he maybe has 1-2 takedowns a fight, you know what I mean, every couple of fights. It's not like this is his go-to, I'm just going to, Movsar Evloev you and just take you down. But if you do go back to a fight against Scott Holtzman, man, I think he had 8 takedowns in that fight, and it was very aggressive. And I was like, can he do that to Calvin Kattar? But then you got to think about it, bro. If you do that to Kattar is going to make you work for anything that you do in the grappling, right? He's going to be working to get to his feet, elbows off the back, all that good stuff. So it makes me wonder if this stat is going to play into how these two are going to initiate their game plans, right? So check it out. Josh Emmett, his last 5-round fight was in 2014 versus a fighter named Brandon Ricchetty. It was a technical decision to win, and that was at WFC 12, brother, not even in the UFC. But for Calvin Kattar, his last 3 fights have all been 5-rounders, bro. And we've had 3 decisions, so he's gone the distance for each one of those fights. So if Josh Emmett says, I'm going to initiate these wrestling exchanges, if Josh Emmett says, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to put you on your butt and keep you there, exert a lot of energy in rounds 2 and 3 or 1, 2, and 3, how are you going to hold up comes around 4 and 5? Because Calvin Kattar, even against Kutateladze, man, he put that pace on him, something we've never seen. He just literally stayed in his face the whole time. And while I think that's problematic because you can't do that to Emmett, you're going to walk into a takedown doing that all fight, right? But if you keep getting back up to your feet, maybe you could wear him out. And then rounds 4 and 5, those championship rounds, you really put it on him. Am I making too much of that, or do you think that could be a real factor?
No, I see what you're coming from, because usually it's the wrestler who doesn't mind getting the takedowns, putting the people in the butt, getting them down. Sure, it does take it takes its toll when they stand back up. So if Calvin Kattar can get that done, that's going to be a thing to watch for in the fight. But I don't know. In my mind, I don't remember Calvin Kattar having a bunch of get up, having a bunch of stand up. I know he does get scrappy on the bottom, but we also haven't seen him been held down in a long time. I'm looking over a fight and where he was held down for a long time. Maybe the Moicano lost, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. Derick, do you know a fight in which he was held down like that? Or is this something Josh Emmett is able to exploit because it hasn't been done to him yet?
Well, I do remember there was I think maybe a point in the Zabit fight where he got held down a little bit, you know what I mean? But Zabit tried to get the fight back up to the feet. I guess the whole point right here, brothers, if you really take a look at it, I mean, Calvin Kattar has been taken down in his UFC career. He's been taken down twice. So, I mean, shit, good luck on that, right? Ultimately, that's what we're saying. Good luck. You've been taken down twice in your entire UFC career. Josh Emmett, let's see what you got. Because Calvin Kattar, the thing that people don't understand about him as well is he's not just a striker, bro. He has really good wrestling, and that's the thing. He kind of put a little bit on display against Giga Chikadze, but either way, man. So, like I said, it's a little more complicated than wrestler versus striker, but I do think that the favor is the advantage should truly go to Calvin Kattar in this fight. We know that if he could stay away from that right hand of Josh Emmett, you're in a pretty good spot because Calvin Kattar's his offense is more of an overwhelming type of offense. Josh Emmett is one hit, crack you, put you down. I mean, when he had his best spots against Dan Ige in his last fight, it's after he rocked him, after he dropped him, and then he was able to capitalize. But let's talk props here, brother. I mean, you have Team Alpha Male in Emmett, and then you got New England Cartel and Kattar. And I think that even though New England Cartel with the Rob Fonts of the world and things like that have been a little discounted as of late, still think that there's a lot of value in this camp, bro. So if we're looking at a Calvin Kattar TKO, we're looking at plus 190. Clearly, he's a minus 230 money line favorite with a plus 190 comeback for Josh Emmett. So you're getting those plus dog numbers on a TKO for Calvin Kattar. Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. Emmett's only been finished once in his entire career, brother, and that's by a knockout. Plus 2,000 for submission and plus 130 for decision. So if anything, I think that decision prop could play in hand. Josh Emmett has a great chin. But let's talk about Josh Emmett, man. Plus 475 for a decision prop for him and plus 400 for a TKO prop. So clearly, odds makers really like Kattar in this spot. I really like Kattar in this spot. It seems like you really like Kattar in this spot. But if we're picking a prop versus the money line, what are we picking?
I think that Calvin Kattar versus decision, that, what'd you say, plus 130?
Plus 130.
Plus 130. That's not bad, man, because that's what I was going for. Decision. I agree. Josh Emmett, he's got a chin. He's durable. He's going to be that great wrestler. He gets in trouble, he's going to shoot. So I think he can outlast, especially 5 rounds. He might get tired, but I think he can last through it. That decision makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. If you're a Josh Emmett fan, what was that TKO plus 4?
Plus 400, brother. Plus 400.
Steep hill right there, but he does have the power. So if you're a Josh Emmett fan, there's some value there. I don't know if I'm willing to put it on there, but I like the Calvin Kattar decision. What about you, Derick?
Well, I will note Calvin Kattar has never been knocked out in his career. He's only been submitted once. And, I mean, Max Holloway came the closest to actually finishing Calvin Kattar. But for Josh Emmett, man, like I said, it's interesting because if Calvin Kattar hurts Emmett, Emmett has the wrestling abilities to be able to save the day and, you know, at least get to that scramble to where you can, you know, have a little lifeline left. Can Calvin Kattar do the same? If he gets hurt, is he going to pull guard? Is he going to try to wrestle? What can he do? And does Josh Emmett have the ability to follow up to really finish the job? I'm really not sure on both parts, but I do like a Calvin Kattar decision more than I like a TKO. I really respect Josh Emmett, and I think he's a great fighter, man. So looks like we'll rock with the decision on both ends, and the over clearly is 4.5 rounds, so we'll take the over on that one, brother. And just so you know, the over odds, brother, it's minus 145 for the over, plus 115 for the under on that one. So the odds makers like the over on that one too. So, all right, that is your main event, Calvin Kattar versus Josh Emmett, man. That's gonna be a fun one, bro. This is legit gonna be banger. I think that we're gonna see violence, lots of blood, the whole 9 right there. But in our co-main event, we have a rebooking, brother. And off the bat, I need to know. So when we booked this originally and we're talking about it, I'm pretty sure I said this is an old man fight. You know, I like the better form Joe Lauzon because he has been in much better form than Cowboy has recently. I'll rock with Lauzon. You said, you know what, I'm going to take a shot on Cowboy. Now a couple weeks have passed, and now we're both team Lauzon. What has made you see the light here today, brother? What made you go team Lauzon?
Man, Derick, this is another one. Even in the previous fight, I was still 50-50, man. I was going back and forth continuously, and just another round of having to go through more film has given me even more indecision, my man. So literally, I went to the old fight betodds.io, whatever the site's called. I forget which one I use, man. But I had to go to the odds because this was one where I was just so back and forth, jumping, and it's getting to the point in the, you already know, Derick, it's getting to the point in the competition where you got to start taking those odds into consideration. You know, it's getting past that halfway point for us. So, man, it was just as much as I love Donald Cerrone, he's able to get things done. He's there. He's Papa Cerrone, you know, all the lure, mystique that he brings to the fight game. Joe Lauzon, he's an absolute savage, and I think he's just a little bit more ready. And with all the extra that the Cowboy has going on in his life, the movie and all the pulling out of his last fight, which, don't get me wrong, you know, Cowboy, I think that's the first fight he ever pulled out in his entire life. So no shame to him or anything like that. But, you know, with just the way the world's work, man, when it's raining, it's pouring. And I think sometimes that might have been either a really good thing for Cowboy, like he missed an ass whooping and now it's time to get his coming back now. Or, you know, now he just delayed the ass whooping a little bit. Who knows? But, man, like I said, I had that 50-50. I was going back and forth, deleting and rewriting. So I went to the odds books on that one, Derick.
Well, interestingly enough, Donald Cerrone, Cowboy Cerrone is minus 170 favorite in this bout, plus 145 comeback for Joe Lauzon. And sometimes it makes me wonder, is it the name? Is it the name value? Is that what does it? I mean, if you look at the form that both fighters are in, yeah, Cerrone has had a harder hit list in the last 5. You have Alex Morono, Nico Price, Anthony Pettis, Conor McGregor, Justin Gaethje. I mean, that's a hell of a hit list in your last 5. And Joe Lauzon, a little less active than Cowboy. You got JSP, Jonathan Pierce. You got Chris Grutzmacher, Clay Guida, Stevie Ray, and Marcin Held, brother. So it's a little bit different of a look. But one thing to take note, man, I had to take some notes from my man Dan Hardy over there at the War Room. And he had noted that Joe Lauzon has about 18 first-round finishes. And I thought that was very interesting because, I mean, Cowboy, he's probably got a bunch too, man. Both of these dudes have such long careers. I mean, 36-16 for Cowboy, 28-16 for Lauzon. Incredibly long careers. But given the nature that we know this, AJ, I don't think that we're turning any heads here. Cowboy's a slow starter, brother. He always has. That is the gift and the curse of a Cowboy Cerrone. And if Joe Lauzon could put a pace on him, similarly the way that he did to JSP, Jonathan Pierce, who is a very talented prospect right now in the lightweight division, if he can do that, I think that he can give some problems to Cowboy. Get it to the ground, get in those entanglements, and just making an odd, weird, funky fight, not standing up and just trading kickboxing with him, doing whatever you can to get to the takedown. But then, AJ, do you agree with everybody else that says, well, Cowboy has such an underrated guard, you don't even understand? What are the chances of Cowboy Cerrone getting a submission? Because I'll tell you what the submission prop for Cowboy Cerrone is. It's plus 900, brother. So not looking very good. What do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably a long shot, man. And don't get me wrong, he does have a very underrated guard, but I think it's also underutilized, In the fight game, you always resort back to what you like the most, what you train the most. And Cowboy, he likes standing up and striking. He loves the roar of the crowd. So, I don't necessarily see him sitting back, going in rubber guard, throwing the legs up, trying to look for submissions and stuff. I just don't see it happening. I just see if there's going to be on the ground, Joe Lauzon's going to be on top, man, looking for, like Derick said, looking to get in that scramble, looking to see those, opportunities present themselves, where I feel like Cowboy, as good as he is on the ground, he's so much better on the feet that I think we're going to see levels to this game if it does get there, man. And what blew my mind, actually, so before I said I went to the fight books before, they actually had Joe Lauzon as a favorite, man. So these odds have flipped. This is what, Tuesday when I was looking at this. So that's crazy that they've flipped that much. It seems like the odds makers are also 50-50 for this one as well, Derick.
Yeah, brother. So that's what I'm saying, man. You have the bona fide grappler, the real deal grappler, and Joe Lauzon, the man who's been doing it forever, longer than Cowboy. People probably don't know that, but yeah, been doing it longer than Cowboy has. And then you got just an active, fun fighter in Donald Cerrone. The problem that I have here in this fight, brother, is that, listen, Donald Cerrone, he has his strengths. He can still bring a lot to the table in this fight. Like I said, knockouts, submissions, the whole nine. But I just think that for Cowboy, he's going to try to go methodically, kickbox you, walk up in your face and do the thing. And Joe Lauzon is just going to try to, at all costs, get to the takedown. Or at least that's what I hope he does, because I don't see a path to victory for him if he does not. Now, let's justify the minus 170 for Donald Cerrone a little bit. I mean, what do you think the odds makers are seeing that says, I think that Cowboy Cerrone can really put a pace on Joe Lauzon? I think that he can stay on the feet and that he can just box him up for 3 rounds. Like, why do you think the odds makers think that?
Man, I think he has good luck in Texas. If I remember correctly, Donald Cerrone does really, really well in Texas, just because he's around other people in cowboy hats. So just kind of he feels like he's around family. You always fight better around family. But all jokes aside, I think it's just the fact that this dude has been on the upper echelon, the elite fighting scheme for what? 5-6 years, something like that. He's fought nothing, and you listed out before, Derick. He's fought nothing but absolute killers in his last 10, some crazy amount like that. Like Donald Cerrone, if you ever want to look at an absolute hit list for somebody, Donald Cerrone has one, man. It's one of those things you look at it and you think man, who are you fighting? Where you're getting, Nico Price, Conor McGregor, Justin Gaethje, Anthony Pettis, all these people. Man, somebody really doesn't like you, but they actually love him. It's the opposite one, man. They actually love Donald Cerrone. He's been a company man for a long time, so he gets to fight the biggest and the baddest when he wants to, and also gets to fight the Alex Moronos when he wants to. All these people. Damn, even Darren Till in there. Yep. Dude's absolute savage.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy, man, because if you look at since the last title shot that he got in 2015 against RDA, he got knocked out in that fight. He fought Cowboy Oliveira, Patrick Cote, Rick Story, Matt Brown, Jorge Masvidal, Robbie Lawler, Darren Till, Yancy Medeiros, Leon Edwards, Mike Perry, Alexander Hernandez, Al Iaquinta, Tony Ferguson, Gaethje, McGregor, Pettis, Price, Morono. This dude doesn't say no to a fight. I guess that's the easiest thing to say. But let's also take a look at it, brother. His last win came in 2019, man. That was Al Iaquinta, and that was a decision to win. Before that, you did get that. I remember that was the resurgence. It was like, oh, Cowboy got the TKO over Alexander Hernandez. This dude's supposed to be the next guy, and then you lose a bunch of fights after that. I just think that momentum is a big factor in this sport, and I think that Joe Lauzon is in better form and has a little better momentum at the moment right now. But either way, that's how we wrap up Donald Cerrone versus Joe Lauzon. Both of us going Lauzon, but let's finish with the prop here, brother. The prop for decision for Joe Lauzon is plus 450, plus 275 for a Cowboy prop on decision. TKO plus 190 for Cowboy, plus 350 for Lauzon. What do you like? Do you like submission? I mean, shoot, Lauzon is plus 700 for submission. So what do you like? Submission, TKO, decision? How you seeing it?
Man, originally I'm thinking decision. Just I don't know. I mean, Cowboy can get knocked out. Lauzon's a fast starter, so I can see it coming. What'd you say the decision was again? Plus what?
For who?
For Lauzon?
For Lauzon, we're looking at plus 450.
Plus 450, submissions plus 900, and TKO you said plus 3.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm gonna go TKO knockout round 2.
Okay. So we're gonna go TKO.
Still early in the fight, not super early, but I can see it happening.
So
What
round
about you?
2, what are we thinking? Late round 2, early round 2?
Late round 2. Is that the over?
Over and under is 1.5, brother. So if you're going late round 2, you're going the over then, yeah?
I'm going with the over.
Okay. Well, listen, brother, I'm going to rock with an over just to see what happens, but I'm not going to lie to you. Out of all of these odds, I like Joe Lauzon's money line prop the best, brother. I like the money line. I want to go there. I'm going to avoid the TKO submission decision, all of that. Give me money line. However Lauzon get it done, he gets it done. But I think that there's just value simply in plus 145 for Joe Lauzon right there, man. So go get it in where you can, folks. But that is your co-main event. All right, bro. Let's talk about it. Dirty Bird versus Kevin Holland, brother. This is the return to welterweight once again. So Kevin Holland has his back-to-back welterweight bouts. In his last fight against Cowboy Oliveira, we saw him still suffer with the same grappling inadequacies that he's been suffering at middleweight, right? And this was against smaller guys in the welterweight division. Now, was he able to? Ultimately, he finished the fight on his, with his back taken. Next round happens, and he says, "You're not taking me down. I'm going to hit you with one good shot, gets you fucking flying out of the ring, and then finish you, man." So Kevin Holland, his power does translate to the welterweight division. And I think that if this was any other welterweight right now in the top 20 to 30, 20 to 40 right now, Kevin Holland would have no problem getting them out of their way. But this is Tim Means, and this is a very experienced fighter here, bro. And the reason why I feel like I need to give respect to Tim Means is because if you look at his last 5, the only loss in his last 5 is against Daniel Rodriguez. And if you look at that fight, bro was having so much success early on. Daniel Rodriguez ended up taking over momentum-wise, and then when Tim Means started to have to, take some shots because the feet striking on the feet wasn't working, he got guillotined bad by a Daniel Rodriguez. Since then, you fought Laureano Starpoli, Mike Perry, and Nicholas Dalby, and you've decisioned all of them. 3-fight win streak, resurgence of Tim Means. But AJ, what's one thing that we've seen in Tim Means' game that isn't the most traditional? This dude's a wrestler now, bro. You know what I mean? He's getting it in with the grappling. So that's why, for me, I see an opening right here. That's why I see plus 180, and I'm like, someone's disrespecting the Dirty Bird. Someone doesn't remember who this man truly is. So let's talk about it, bro. Kevin Holland is a phenom, right? And hopefully he's found his correct weight class at 170 pounds. But let's be real here, man. When you're fighting a Tim Means, what do you expect? I mean, what do you think Kevin Holland expects Tim Means to do? Do you think he expects Tim Means to just shoot immediately? Because he could kickbox with the best of them. I think that this is going to be a fun, scrappy kickboxing match with some grappling incorporated into it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's going to be kickboxing starting off, getting wild on the feet, and then when they need to, they're going to throw it to the ground. I mean, Tim Means, you said himself, man, he is a very amazing wrestler. He's coaching wrestling down in Albuquerque. So this dude's, he's staying in it, man. He's living the life. He's still fully engulfed in the wrestling, but don't sleep on his striking because he has some absolute power too. So the Dirty Bird can get things done, man, and he has the mindset to do it. We've talked about Tim Means a lot, man. You can't give enough praise to the kind of person that Tim Means is inside the cage and outside the cage. So he gets a lot of respect here on the program. But, man, I think Kevin Holland on this one, I guess there's no but to that. He gets a lot of respect on the program. Kevin Holland, on the other hand, also gets a lot of respect from me just because of the reflectiveness or the turning inside and self-awareness that Kevin Holland has, where he saw, like, oh, okay, I was doing bad in the wrestling in the 185. I dropped down, think I'm going to do a little bit better, still get handled, still get kind of ragdolled a little bit, or at least maybe not ragdolled, but controlled a little bit by who's supposed to be the easier fighters, the lighter fighters, and then takes a year off, goes and gets that wrestling training in. So I think he is expecting a Tim Means to come out and wrestle a little bit. He says he feels a lot more confident in Kevin Holland. He says he feels a lot more confident in his wrestling abilities. But, man, Tim Means, this dude's been doing it for a very long time, not just a year, or 3 years probably, what Kevin Holland's been focusing really on wrestling now. But, he's been doing it a lot longer. And when you teach basics to kids, your foundation grows exponentially as well. So I think he's a little outmatched on the ground still, but I'm excited to see how Kevin Holland does.
Well, Kevin Holland, this is on this program, on the Bloody Water podcast, this is a fan favorite right here. We love Kevin Holland. We love Trailblazer. We love Big Mouth. You know what I mean? I'm big fans of him. The only gap that I see making this problematic for Kevin Holland is his nature to, overcommit on his strikes. His nature to be a little bit of when he throws like a big right hand, given his arms are so long, it's like the gift and the curse. He throws it, but it takes him a minute to get there, and then he stays there for a minute after. So it's not these sharp take the shot, bring it back, move out a distance. It's like commit and follow with the shot. And if you follow with the shot, I just see that as giving Tim Means opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to grab you, body lock you, get you down to the ground, and keep taking you to the ground. Because if you look at Tim Means' fight against Nicholas Dalby in his last outing, bro, I mean, Nicholas Dalby is a great karate fighter who doesn't really run into too many problems against too many fighters, but Tim Means put it on him, man, from start to finish. He went straight to the wrestling. If you look at his fight against Daniel Rodriguez, even in the beginning, man, he hit him with a blast double. Now, D-Rod was able to get up, and like I said, the tide turned after that. But the point is I think that was the fight for him right there that kind of instilled, okay, I need to go deeper in this wrestling game. And ever since then, against the Star Polies, the Mike Perrys, the Nicholas Dalbys, you see it time and time and time again. If I'm not mistaken, I think he did that to Mike Perry as well. But let me just take a look really quickly at the stats. Let's see. For Tim Means, he has, okay, so it looks like, and I'll pull this down just 1 second. So for Tim Means, last couple outings, 1 takedown against Dalby. He actually got taken down by Mike Perry. That's right. I remember that. But he pieced him up on the feet. Look at that. 128-64. Constant output right there. 2 takedowns against Laureano Starpoli. 1 against D-Rod. And then, as I said, man, this dude, he's been taking down people forever. So we know what time it is. I just think that's something that is a big factor that needs to be taken into consideration because Kevin Holland, of course, can land that one big shot. That right hand, if it connects flush, that's it. And that's my whole thing is like, can Tim Means withstand the damage to be able to get it in range, to grab a body lock, to get a takedown, to get the blast double and control it on the ground? And that's my question to you. Let's be honest here. 10 out of 10 times, I mean, can Tim Means make this happen and avoid that damage? And I'm talking about not get KO'd the way that Alex Oliveira got hit with that shot and that was just it for him. Like, can he get past that surge? What do you think?
10 out of 10 times, man. I think he can, but I'm thinking like a 4 out of 4 or 5, like a 50-50, somewhere around that kind of shot. Because don't forget, like was it Buckley? Was it Kevin Holland versus Buckley, where he got him basically in the same, where it was a close knockout using the momentum coming forward. Same thing happens on this one. Tim Means, he's looking to shoot, but doesn't necessarily get his head offline or something like that. Yeah. Kevin Holland uses momentum against you. That's where those long, lanky arms and that reach doesn't really matter because he's putting all that power behind that shot. As much as like I said, 50-50. I'm right about there. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but around somewhere there, I think he can always get past the danger. But, I mean, you're playing with fire, which is always a very dangerous one, man.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, man. And, like, do you think that it's wrong to sit here and say that Kevin Holland, bro, like, I think that he just needs to double down a little bit more and not initiate the grappling sequences, not try to be like, oh, you want to grapple me? Well, I'm gonna placate that. I'm gonna, you know what I mean? I'm gonna invite you to do that. I think he needs to keep it on the feet because he's a bad man on the feet, bro. Kevin Holland is a bad man. So, I mean, listen. Really what it comes down to is the veteran experience of Tim Means, and I think that he can try to use some of that Brunson-esque experience, that Vittori-esque experience, to be able to squeak out a win here against Kevin Holland, but it's not going to be easy, I'll tell you that much, brother. So is it unfair, though, for me to say that I see this going one of two ways? Either Kevin Holland knocks out Tim Means or Tim Means wins a decision. I don't see it going any other way. Is that fair?
Yeah, I see it the same, man, because if Holland is able to get a decision, he's done some really impressive wrestling, and all of us are changing our tune on Sunday morning, you know?
Yeah,
absolutely. That's how I see it.
Absolutely. So let me just rattle these off really quickly because I thought these were a couple interesting stats. Tim Means, he's 6-4 in his last 10. 2 split decision losses, 1 knockout, and 1 submission loss. So on the other side of those split decision losses, brother, you're fucking 8-2 in your last 10. You're in great form. Now, Kevin Holland, he's 6-3 and 1 no contest in his last 10, and 5 of his 6 wins have come at 185 pounds. So something to take into consideration. And with that being said, AJ, let's talk about some props here. So for Tim Means, decision prop, plus 175. And for Kevin Holland, this is actually very surprising to me. Kevin Holland TKO prop is plus 600. That's very surprising. And I think very lucrative sounding. What do you think?
Very surprising. Yeah, plus 600. There's if you're a Holland fan, I jump all over this one too, because that's what I'm thinking. Kevin Holland, TKO, round 3. I'm even going late on this one because I do think it's going to be a gritty fight right here. But if there's ever a way for Holland to get it done, that's at plus 600 money. That's nice.
Are you thinking early round 3, late round 3? What you thinking?
Is that the over-under?
2.5. Well, 2.5 is the over and under, so.
Always battling these ones. Man, I'm gonna go early round 3 this one. I'm gonna take the under.
Okay. and you'll rock with the TKO prop for Kevin Holland, which is smart. And I like the decision prop for Tim Means, but honestly, you have to rock with the money line once again here, because if you look at the decision prop for Tim Means, you're looking at plus 175. So you're getting worse odds for a decision than just money line overall for Tim Means. So this is another one, folks, where I'm going to recommend that you go money line on Tim Means. But let's just say, let me take a look actually right now. Let me see what the current odds are at this moment. Literally, I'll refresh it. As of this moment, it looks like the current odds for Tim Means will be plus 230, minus 280. So, yeah, I mean, come on, brother. The odds are swelling in favor of Kevin Holland. You have to take the money line at this point. I think that's the most adequate bet to take. And it concerns me a little bit, brother. I'm not going to lie to you with my Tim Means pick, given that the odds makers are just like, no, he's not going to do it. But we'll see what happens. I like Tim Means' veteranship. Some takedowns are going to have to be necessary, a prerequisite to get the job done. But Kevin Holland has that one-shot KO power, man. We'll see if he can get it done right there. So that is your pick. I am rocking with the money line, but just to be fair, over, because I'm expecting a decision. So we'll leave that for what it's worth. All right, brother. Now, this is a fight that I'm actually excited to talk about, because I feel like a lot of people do not know about one of these fighters. Of course, people know about Joaquin Buckley, Numansa, the spinning back kick that they show on, repeat time after time after time again. And I feel bad because Impa Kasanganay isn't even in the UFC anymore. So it's like you came into the UFC, you got put on a highlight reel, and then you got cut from the UFC. That's a terrible thing, but it is what it is. That's the name of the fight game. But this is going to be an interesting fight, man, because you arguably have striker versus grappler in this fight. However, Albert Duraev, man, this is a dude who is a little more accomplished than you might think, brother. And he has a badass nickname, actually one of the most badass nicknames in the game right now. This is the Chechen Machete right there. You know what I mean? So, I mean, listen, he's fought between 170 and 185 pounds throughout his career. This is a promotion called ACB, Absolute Champion Berkut, I believe. He was the double champ there, 170 and 185. And, man, if he gets you on the ground, he puts his hooks in, and it's kind of game over for you there. But Joaquin Buckley's a really good wrestler, bro, and he has knockout power in his hands, obviously, right? Because for Joaquin Buckley, 7 of his 10 knockout wins have come in the first or second round, bro. And I said 7 of his 10 knockout wins. 10 of 14 wins are via knockout. This is a knockout guy. But let's talk about it, brother. You have a knockout guy. You have a grappler. You have a grappler who sometimes likes to stand it out and bang out on the feet a little bit more than is necessary. But does he take a repeat of his contender series fight? I'm talking about Duraev versus Bittencourt, I believe is his name, and just shoot straight for the blast double and get into it. What do you think?
I think if he's smart, yes, just to nullify a little bit of that power that Buckley has, especially in the beginning of his fighting, But the Buckley is very, very dangerous in the beginning of his fights. Yeah. Once that lactic acid builds up, I think Duraev can have a little bit more accomplishments on the feet after that. But I mean, don't get me wrong. If you've ever met a Chechen, they're absolute savages. So I would not be surprised if Duraev steps in, puts his foot in the tire, and says, let's get in the middle of this octagon. Wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, brother. And then I guess, let's really talk about it, man. Tell me about Joaquin Buckley's last win against Abdul Razak Al Hassan, man. I mean, this was a banger split decision. Tell me about it a little bit.
Man, what was this? The split decision against the Razak. Where was it? Where was it fought at 2022?
This was his last fight, brother. This was Abdul Razak Al Hassan. So if I remember correctly, man, this was a back and forth fight, lots of striking, but it ultimately came down to the grappling, man. It was back and forth grappling exchanges that decided the outcome of the fight. Because if we look at the UFC stats right here, man, it looks like, and let me just pull it up really quickly. So for Joaquin Buckley in his last fight, okay, so check this out, man. All right, here we go. Joaquin Buckley. He had 5 takedowns versus 3 takedowns for Abdul Razak Al Hassan, man. 51 strikes to 46 strikes. It was a very, very closely contested fight right there. And it came down to those grappling exchanges, which goes to show that Joaquin Buckley, when necessary, he can initiate the wrestling. He can get the wrestling going, the grappling going, and dictate where the fight takes place. He doesn't always have to be that, I'm going to stand in your face and throw big bombs at you. But we do also understand that everything he throws is pretty loopy. You know what I mean? It's pretty big wind-ups, big motions, and Duraev is not that type of fighter. He can be, but a lot of that time is to set up the takedown. So, I mean, how are you seeing this? Do you think Buckley initiates some grappling? Do you think he tries to keep it on the feet? Do you think that his wrestling is good enough to be able to keep Duraev on the feet and making him stand up with him? Like, how do you see the fight playing out?
Well, going back to the Al Hassan fight, that was Al Hassan coming off of a big knockout, if I remember correctly, too. So he's also thinking entirely, I'm shooting for the ground. So I think leads a little bit more towards this fight as well, where Duraev is very much a specialist on the ground, but also has that power. He also has the striking. He's just a lot. If you're looking at who's better, it's definitely going to be Duraev on the ground. Yeah. But Joaquin Buckley has the same kind of thing where he is very underrated on the ground. He can wrestle, he can get it done, but I think he's going to need to prove a point again, shoot for more takedowns, get the 5 versus 3, just like in his last fight, where he's getting more output, more efficiency, and controlling the fight more in that aspect. I think if he takes that same approach to this one, it'll shock a lot of people, because Duraev is a savage on the ground, man.
Yeah, I mean, Joaquin Buckley, it's tough for me to bet against him in this spot just because his power is so astronomical. If he hits you, there is a high likelihood you're not going to get up. And we've seen that kind of time and time again. But I also do think that there's a lot of problem to be had in these big strikers who we've seen don't have too much success when they're not in a control position on the ground. When they're on their back and they're kind of flattened out and just stuck there, all that lactic acid buildup, you're tired, you're trying to get back up to your feet. I mean, Duraev, he ragdolls people, man. Like the Chechen machete, bro. Like, come on. And the problem is people have been anticipating him coming to the UFC for a long time. So he's one of those guys. One of the like, oh, yeah, of course, he's going to take over the UFC and do all this good stuff. And what does he do? First fight in the UFC against Roman Kopylov. And, brother, I don't know if you know anything about Roman Kopylov, but Roman Kopylov is a little bit of a different challenge. So if you look at the height, the reach, all that good stuff between Buckley and Duraev, you would see that they're roughly the same height, 5'10", 5'11" for Duraev, 76-inch reach, 75-inch reach for Duraev. So 76-inch reach for Buckley. So it's comparable, right? But when he fought Roman Kopylov is a 6-foot fighter, long reach advantage, the whole 9. And the thing that was really interesting is that Duraev decided to stick it out on the feet for the majority of the fight until he was able to mix in the takedowns. So this is someone longer, bigger, more technical than Buckley. The problem is Buckley, he's not tall and long and big, but he has nuclear threats, that nuclear option at all times. So that's what makes it scary, brother. Over and under on takedowns for Duraev. What do you think it is?
Over and under on takedowns? Total? Both fighters total?
No, just Duraev total.
Oh, Duraev? 5.
5. Shit, that's a lot. That's not no small amount, brother, right there. I'll tell you that much. So, I mean, striker, grappler, that's more or less what we have it. I'm interested to know if Buckley can use his wrestling to mitigate some of the grappling of Duraev. But when we're talking about the props, I know what I like here, but let's talk about it. For Joaquin Buckley, it looks like his KO prop, which is another thing that is very surprising to me, brother. So let me just make sure that, okay. His KO prop, plus 275. It's a little surprising. It feels like it's a little, like it should be lower than that. Like it's a little high on the odds.
I mean, not as high as plus 600. I like this one a little bit more. Yeah. And what's nice, or I guess not nice, but what's beneficial for Buckley on this one is Duraev, all 3 losses are by KO. And I think KO early, too, if I'm not mistaken. Round one. Yeah, all round 1 KOs. There's one loss, but it was just they didn't get around. But yeah.
So that's the problem right there, man, is that, like, if you're, I mean, listen, cat out the bag. If you saw my picture earlier, you know I'm going with Duraev here, but, like, I would still put money on the Joaquin Buckley TKO because that's almost too good to be true at plus 275 right there. Now, the prop that I like is the Duraev submission, plus 300 right here, man. I think that he can get Buckley. I did the same thing you did, bro. Get Buckley down, get him in those scrambles, put in those hooks, tie him up, man, take his back in one of those spots where a wrestler who is prone, who has the instinct to when they want to get back up to their feet, they give their back. That's the wrestler's number one bread and butter right there, simply because you're taught, get to your knees, get up. That's cool for most people until they grab your back and they choke you out. So I think that Duraev getting a submission, man, is very likely here. But I really see it only going one of 2 ways, man. I do not really think this fight's going to go the distance, personally. And the odds makers agree, given that the over and under is 1.5. So I like Albert Duraev minus 300 submission prop, brother. And I think that he gets it done while they're still kind of dry, man. I'm going to give it early round 2. So I'm going to take the under in this fight for the submission prop. For Joaquin Buckley, you're taking the nuclear option, yeah? When does he get it done?
I'm taking the nuclear option, KO, and I'm going late round 2, man. Riding that over under line again. Yeah, taking the over.
Okay, so damn man, you got 3 TKOs back to back. This is gonna be a banger of a card right here, bro. So this is gonna be an interesting one, folks. And I'm gonna let you know right now. Obviously, Joaquin Buckley, you know about him, but this dude Albert Duraev, do not be surprised. I mean, look at the money line. He's a minus 200 favorite at open, plus 170 comeback for Joaquin Buckley. And if I take a look right now, the actual odds have swelled in more favor for Duraev, minus 230 for Duraev, plus 190 for Joaquin Buckley, man. So this is a dude that you need to keep an eye on. And we'll move on to the next one, but that's gonna be a fun one for sure. All right, brother. This one, I could talk all day about this one, but I don't want to, given that literally I could spend an hour just talking about Damir Ismagulov versus Guram Kutateladze, man. And listen, what do you know? Like, if you had to say this is what Ismagulov is good at, this is what Kutateladze is good at, what would you just say, just in a few sentences, like very short, brief description?
Man, instantly, I think Ismagulov, his striking is nice, but this dude's got some slick wrestling as well, man. Very, very slick wrestling. We saw in the the Alves fight.
Yeah.
It's also in the Thiago Moises fight. Very good wrestling, grappling as well, man. But the kicks, if I remember correctly, Ismagulov stand out nicely. And Kutateladze, man, his fight against Gamro, the gamer, the split decision gamer, I think if I had to say anything about Kutateladze, his IQ, his fight IQ is kind of what stands out to me the most. Being able to see the openings, to strike when he does, take the big defense when he does. Those are kind of two things right there. But I mean, at the same point, I think I'd give the striking advantage to Kutateladze.
Yeah.
Ground game to the Ismagulov, man. What about you?
Yeah, no, I think it would be the most fair to say that Guram Kutateladze is a better Muay Thai striker, very underrated Muay Thai striker. His kicks, Kutateladze's kicks, those are the ones you need to be worried about. Ismagulov got good kicks, but Kutateladze, his kicks will crack you, man. Those body kicks are very Giga Chikadze-esque right there. And I will also say, and it's also, I mean, what do you know? They're both from Georgia, right? Similarity, huh? I think not. I don't know. Kutateladze, bro, his jiu-jitsu is very 10th Planet-esque, man. He has these crazy flexibility and dexterity in his hips and his legs to be able to do these like rubber guard type moves and mitigate a lot of people's wrestling. When he fought Mateusz Gamrot, the problem that you saw here is Gamrot took him down multiple times. But what did Kutateladze do? Use his jiu-jitsu, triangle setups, omoplata setups. Like, I mean, legitimately in fight, which is crazy, man. To try to really set up an omoplata in an MMA fight, like, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. But that's what was able to kind of, how would you say, negate the grappling chops of a Gamrot and put him in danger. Heel hook attempts, the whole entire 9. So the other thing to make note is that for Kutateladze, he has 3 first-round knockouts in his last 5 wins, man. So when he goes, he goes. And for Damir Ismagulov, he's much more of a decision machine than he is a KO machine. Obviously, 12 KOs on his record, but a lot of decisions as of late. And if you look at his last 5, 4 of his 5 wins have come via decision, and the 1 win that he has via stoppage was due to a hand injury. So, I mean, Ismagulov, he's looking to be technical, patient, get the takedown, hold you down there. The question is, can he do it versus Kutateladze with that jiu-jitsu acumen? I don't know. Can he sit there and just be technical and patient in the striking when Kutateladze's got these crazy kicks that come out of nowhere? I don't know. But the question really is why did this matchup get put together in the first place, AJ? You have a very high-level prospect in Ismagulov, and then you got Kutateladze, who's a dark horse high prospect who literally only has 1 other UFC fight. Combine 3 UFC fights between these guys. Why put them together right now? Why not wait until a little bit later in their careers to match them up? What do you think?
Man, I don't know. I think this is one of those ones where we're going to see a rematch down the road, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. I think we're going to get a rematch from these ones, and maybe the UFC is just trying to build that extra hype for later on. They see the value of these. There's no way they don't see the value in both these fighters. So they're probably setting something up like, yeah, you guys just scrap it out now. We know both of you, regardless of who wins or who loses, both of you, you're going to keep going up. Your stock's going to keep rising, provide a fan-friendly fight. And then in a couple of years, we can book the rematch saying, get a little story going. I think the story makers are at work right here, at least setting up, playing chess instead of playing checkers on this one. Because other than that, if you're not playing chess and I am overthinking this one, I don't get it, because these dudes are absolute killers with a lot of value behind their name. If you're just killing careers early for no reason, doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with you here. And I will say Ismagulov, he has more experience. He does. But if I'm not mistaken, Kutateladze, he trains at All Stars Training Center. Isn't that the same gym that Hamzat Chimaev trains at, right, out there in Sweden? I believe so. All Stars Training Center, if I'm not mistaken. So there's something to take note of. I will also say Kutateladze, you've seen him fight. You see him train with the Oh man, just all the Khabib homies, all his little homies that are in the UFC right now, all the people that he's brought in, like he trains with those guys. So I think it's going to be tough on both ends. Both of these dudes have indomitable wills and spirits. But let's talk about how it gets done. For Kutateladze, man, I think that his best option, honestly, is a solid decision win because it's going to be tough to knock out this dude Ismagulov. And for Ismagulov, I kind of see it the same way. However, let's just look at the total props. For Kutateladze submission, it looks like we're looking at plus 2,000, right? Plus 1,200 for Ismagulov submission. So they're kind of throwing submissions out the window. But for decisions, this is what was interesting to me. Plus 125 for Ismagulov, plus 250 for Kutateladze, plus 385 for a TKO for Ismagulov, and plus 450 for Kutateladze TKO, brother. So what do you like better, a decision or a TKO for either of these fighters?
I have decision on this one, probably for both. I think this is one of those ones where they're both so skilled. It's going to be either going to be one of those random you get caught kind of moments, or we're going to see a long drawn out battle right here.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, who are you favoring, brother? I think Kutateladze is the best pick for the value right here. Obviously, is Ismagulov ragdolling everyone, of course, but it's just a different animal that he's running into right here. Like I said, the jiu-jitsu is going to play a big factor. Ismagulov's very top-heavy, just like smash style, position over submission type style. Could kind of lend to him not being able to use the jiu-jitsu, though. So it's something to think about. So who do you see getting it done?
Well, and Kutateladze is smart, so he knows how to utilize that pressure of that smash style against, especially training with the smash bros out there in I forget where they train already. But man, what was the Kutateladze decision plus what?
Plus 250.
Plus 250. Yeah, I think that's where I'm rolling. I was looking at that money line, that plus 145, because I think he can get it done in a multitude of ways. Yeah. But to me, the decision makes a little bit more sense. So that's where I'm sticking with this for that plus two to whatever it was comeback.
Plus 250 comeback for Guram Kutateladze via decision. That is his decision prop. And I think that's the best play right here. Obviously, can a knockout happen? Of course. But I think the decision is the most likely given how high level. This is just going to be a high level technical fight through and through. Someone might get caught with a submission, man. You never know. But I think to play it safe, we'll rock with the decision. Both. That is our Bloody Water Podcast lock of the week. It appears then, right? Guram Kutateladze via decision right there. Lock it in, folks. Run to your local sports book. You know what time it is. Now, lastly, AJ, we'll wrap it up with Julian Marquez, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and a short notice replacement in RoboCop, number 32 ranked Gregory Rodriguez, or I should say Rodriguez. Either way, brother, this is going to be two jiu-jitsu guys who also happen to have bombs in their hands. And the difference here, though, AJ, is that Julian Marquez, man, he isn't like, I feel like he's more advertised as a knockout guy who has submissions, and Gregory Rodriguez is also kind of viewed the same. But for Gregory Rodriguez, did you know he literally started off as a jiu-jitsu guy who then fell in love with the hands? And now that's all he does. He doesn't take people down, even though he has such a great jiu-jitsu acumen. But for Julian Marquez, look at his last two wins. Rear naked choke on Sam Alvey. Third round Hail Mary Anaconda choke on Maki Pitolo, a fight he was losing. Second round guillotine on Darren Stewart, the dentist. I mean, come on, brother. Julian Marquez has bombs, but he's a little bit of a slower pace fighter, even though his significant strikes landed per minute is pretty high, about 4. But it's about 5.5 for Gregory Rodriguez, bro. So I see it like this. Simply put, who is going to be fresher come round 3? Because both of these dudes get a little gassed, you know what I mean? It takes some energy swinging and banging like these two guys. So who do you think has more energy come round 3? Given however the fight takes place, bro, because that's the thing. Gregory Rodriguez could initiate takedowns, but so can Marquez. Both of these dudes can grapple. So it's who's going to do it, who's going to be fresher. How do you see it?
Man, that might be the best prop of the entire fight card, man, because that's a hard question right there. Instantly, I think Gregory Rodriguez, RoboCop's going to be the fresher fighter out there. But even if Julian Marquez has this weird thing of looking, he wears his fatigue poorly. He looks very, very tired out there. He looks like he's just, sweating up a storm, huffing and puffing, belly's, going in and out. But then he pulls off the Maki Pitolo Anaconda choke, last second Hail Mary. He has that in him. So he has that weird kind of the strength curve where his muscles fatigue him. He gets tired out, but he still has enough to just get that last little burst in. So a very dangerous fighter when he is fatigued like that. But I think RoboCop at the same point, this dude, he just once his gas tank hits at a certain level, he just starts putting his head down and swing in helicopter mode. So there's both fighters that can do that. I think in my mind, Rodriguez is the one that's going to stay fresher a little bit longer, but we'll see. Who's your bet on that one, Derek?
I think that Gregory Rodriguez is going to maintain a little bit, given that he lost in his last fight because the gas tank was something that he wasn't able to manage, and he wasn't using his full MMA skill set the way that he could have. And this is a dude, Armen Petrosyan, bro, great Muay Thai fighter, great Muay Thai champion. And when it came down to it, Rodriguez, I think, let his ego get in the way and try to bang it out on the feet when he should have just worked the takedowns to get the win. It's not about the ego, it's about the win, right? Interestingly enough, though, both of these fighters, their last loss in their last five was a split decision loss. So, split decision loss to Petrosyan for Rodriguez, and a split decision loss to Alex DeChirico. Alicio DeChirico. I said Alex. Alicio DeChirico in his last one. So, interesting on both ends, man. But who learns more? Do you think if Marquez learned more? Because he came off and rattled off 2 submission wins after that. But for Rodriguez, now that's the question. What can you rattle off now? You've had all this success, man. He's 11-4 in his career, 2-1 in the UFC. Marquez is 3-1 in the UFC. But I think Marquez just had more of the Hail Mary wins, more of the come-behind wins. Even Sam Alvey was able to give him some fits, bro. So it goes to show that it's like, all right, man. A motivated Gregory Rodriguez, who was a little bit taller, a little bit longer. If he sits down and he gets the backpack on him, I don't know, man. I don't know. This is one of those fights where I just feel like Gregory Rodriguez, he has everything to lose here. If he gets caught by the big bomb of Julian Marquez, that Cuban Missile Crisis right there, man, yeah, you're going to have some problems. But he also does have a pretty solid chin, man. I think we saw that pretty flush in the Jun-Young Park fight, even in the Dusko fight, even in the Petrosyan fight. So when it comes down to trading blows, if a knockout does happen, who do you think gets the knockout?
Man, I'm leaning towards Marquez on that one, yeah. But Rodriguez also has bombs. So this is very much, I think, an underrated 50-50 coin flip kind of fight, and I think these might be the closest odds we've had all night, so the odds makers might see it the same way. I don't remember if there's one that's a little bit closer than this, so but I mean, if you're in a stand-up bomb, just dropping bombs on each other against Julian Marquez, you're in for a very short night, dude, because this dude has some serious power. The thing is that comes with that power is a little bit of lack of control, as well as burning the gas tank. So I think Gregory, I agree with you. Gregory Rodriguez has everything to lose in this fight because he's the better, more well-rounded fighter, if you will. The better fighter doesn't always win, though. So that's I always pause and have hesitation when I say stuff like that because it's usually more often than not the better fighter loses.
Yeah, you're right. And Julian Marquez also has the tutelage of James Krause in his corner over there at Glory MMA, man. So it's something to think about. But I like the better form fighter in terms of his career, man. A dude who's been great at his grappling matches, a dude who's done great in MMA thus far. Gregory Rodriguez, man, I just think that he has a brighter future. Julian Marquez, I think that he needs to be reserved, brother, for these pay-per-view bouts where he's just getting great banger matchups. But originally, he was actually not slated to fight Gregory Rodriguez. He was slated to fight somebody else that I don't remember off the top of my head. Wellington Turman. That would have been much more back and forth. Okay, how is this going to get done fight? Gregory Rodriguez, I think, as a short notice replacement. It's just a little rough, brother. So let's look at the props. Gregory Rodriguez via TKO. It looks like we are looking at plus 300 right there. Plus 400 for Marquez by TKO. So they like Gregory Rodriguez a little bit more. Submission plus 350 for Rodriguez, plus 900 for Marquez, and a decision plus 250 for Rodriguez, plus 450 for Marquez. So the odds makers, they like Gregory Rodriguez. They just like him. Whether it's moneyline props, they like him. So how do you see it? What's the most likely outcome? TKO, submission, decision? What is it?
I was going decision on this one. I think he'll be the fresher fighter at the end of the rounds. And I'm hoping he doesn't try to play with fire in the middle of the fight, man, because that's so dangerous against Julian Marquez. So if he's able to stay smart, stay composed, I think he wins the fight at the end of the day. And I like the plus money on that decision over the money line. I think it's a good call. What about you?
I like the plus 250 decision for Gregory Rodriguez. However, I will say this, and this is fair warning to the good folks at home. Expect to be on the edge of your seat. Expect to be sweating some bullets because I think there's going to be one of those fights where he almost gets put out of there and then salvages a win. I think it's going to be one of those. Julian Marquez has never been knocked out, and Gregory Rodriguez has been knocked out twice. So given. Once you get tired, once you're helicopter throwing, swinging and banging, anything is up for grabs. Even though these are middleweights, I'm treating this like a heavyweight fight where anything can happen here. All it takes is one shot. So both of us, it looks like we like Gregory Rodriguez decision, which is kind of surprising because most people would probably be looking at a finish here, but that means those are our two locks, man. Guram Kutateladze and Gregory Rodriguez both via decision right there. And that is your main card, folks. So like I said, this is another one of those. Sometimes it makes it much more difficult to be able to look at it and say, oh, win, especially when you're looking at, well, how does it get it done? And if he is going to get it done here, what is going to come in the, what's going to be the obstacle? Listen, this is going to be a fun fight. Prelims, main card, the whole entire 9. You're going to get your chips and your popcorn ready because Saturday night, couple brewskis, Saturday night is going to be a fun one. AJ, brother, at this point, all we have to say is that this is a big one, obviously. 2 fights ahead are you, right? You got, 71 wins? I got 69 wins. And it's already, man, we're 6 months throughout the year. So, yeah, we're at the halfway point. I got to step it up because if you get another big one on me this one, man, I mean, solidifying that lead, fortifying that lead. Out of all of the fights on the main card, man, Kattar versus Emmett, Lauzon versus Cowboy, Means Holland, Duraev Buckley, Kutateladze versus Ismagulov, Rodrigues Marquez. Which one are you most looking forward to?
Most looking forward to? Woo! Probably the Kattar Emmett, as well as the Ismagulov Kutateladze. I think that Kutateladze fight has a lot of sleep behind it. But I think the Kattar fight, he's going to have so much fun in there. I think that's what makes me excited for it. What about you?
Believe it or not, man, I'm looking for that Dirty Bird versus Kevin Holland, brother. I think that's going to be the fun fight of the night right there. And it could be fight of the night just in general. But listen, man, it's UFC Austin. This is going to be a spot where you're going to be putting a lot of love on the city. This is going to be a good event for the city of Austin right there. But I wanted to ask your opinion, man. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but let's solidify it, right? You got the Vegases, the Nevadas, you got the Texases, the Floridas, and the Arizonas. And as much as I think it's cool that these are the hot spots right now, do you think that it's for the next couple, this is going to be it for the next couple of years, just these couple states, and we're just going to keep circulating? Because I really do miss the days of like, all right, every single week you're at Ohio this week, Pennsylvania this week, Kansas the next week, you came to San Jose this week, like all these random places. But it just feels like the UFC says, well, we've realized that, because they never tried this experiment before, we've realized we can continue to make money at a probably lower costs, lower overhead. So why not? Fuck it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this one all comes down to profit versus loss margins right here, Derick. P's and L's, man. And probably they're looking at what makes them the most money for the least amount of money spent, because in COVID, they were able to do that, man. Still turn a profit without the travel expenses, without paying, the royalties to the companies that you're having to put on the venues for and all that stuff. So unfortunately, I think this is kind of headed more towards the route of where we're going. We're going to have a few key hubs of fights. And the bad part is with the rest of, we're not going to see New York in quite a long time. We might see a little bit more California opening up. California's opening up a little bit more, but those other states that are up there, man, I don't see us going back for quite a long time. What about you?
Well, it's tough, bro, because I agree with you. And it reminds me a little bit of where did bare knuckle boxing really kind of originate? Like Wyoming, right? Like just kind of take off in the backyards, man, in these little hot spots right here. And it makes me feel like we're taking ourselves a step back to that direction, where now it was everywhere, and now we're like, nope, it's just gonna be in Nevada, just gonna be in Vegas, or just gonna be in Florida, just gonna be, what I'm saying? So I'm like, well, if we open it up more, that lends to more popularity of the sport. But when you have it in these little dungeons of these places, it could get a little bit of a bad rap. I don't know. Either way, I don't know where I'm going with that. All right, that's it for us, folks. We've been talking too long here at this point. Great episode in the books. We will see you on Monday for the post show recap of the action of UFC Austin. And until then, drop a like, subscribe, share the show with your friends, all the good stuff. youtube.com/freethinkersclub. Hit us up on Instagram at Bloody Water Podcast. Hit us up on Twitter at Bloody Water Pod, and just hit us up on our website. That's really the main key, the home, the hub, the heart, the soul. BloodyWaterPodcast.com. You know what time it is, folks. That's it for us. Until next time, peace.